Hey guys, so I haven't gone live in a while, mostly because I honestly just haven't felt very good in the afternoons, which is when I normally go live, because that's when I can send my children outside to play in the backyard and nobody dies. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about an experience that we went through. I feel like it was around this time of year, 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. But I'm just going to kind of I have a direct correlation to what's going on in our lives right now, like just with this current pregnancy and everything. But I just want to talk a little bit about what was happening when we went in for our 18-week scan when Joshua was obviously not born yet, but when he was a baby. So this 18-week scan, basically what had happened is we were in this kind of place. I'm going to just keep talking to myself, I guess. We were in this place where really, we wanted to find out the gender. And I kind of had this expectation going into this, I guess just this ultrasound, really, that everything was going to turn out fine. And that we were going to be able to find the gender and that it was going to be easy breezy. And then we had the appointment. And the nurse had, or not the nurse, the ultrasound tech kind of had a hard time finding, just different parts of the anatomy scan that she needed to be able to find, I guess, is really what it was. So she just was having a hard time locating fingers and toes and seeing all of the appendages. And then on top of that, she was unable to determine the gender, which was super frustrating because we went in thinking we're going to know what this baby is. And then we knew nothing. So I spent this whole, really just this whole entire week afterwards, because they told us, well, here's the thing, we weren't able to get all the pictures that we need at this ultrasound, so what we're going to do is we're going to send you to a perinatal specialist, which is basically just a higher tech ultrasound. They're just going to do a more in-depth ultrasound. They're just going to try and get better pictures. Baby will be a little bit bigger. Likelihood of finding the gender hopefully will go up at a different time of day. So Joshua was being sneaky and hiding, but on top of that, this ultrasound tech told me the worst thing you could ever tell me, a pregnant mom, a first-time pregnant mom too, which was she told me you probably shouldn't know this, which you never preface that. But basically there's some bubbles on your baby's brain and we don't really know what they mean. They could mean something not so good. They could be totally fine. But if we send you into this ultrasound specialist in a week, then things are going to work out and it's going to be good. But I just remember just the total and complete terror at knowing that there could potentially be something wrong with our baby that hadn't even been born yet, and that they couldn't give us any answers, and that they this perinatal specialist, we called in that day to schedule and they were unable to get us in until the following week. So we had a whole week of waiting and not knowing the gender, not knowing if something was wrong. And I just remember it must have been April. I think it was April or May. Yeah, April, May-ish of the 2013 year when we had Joshua. And they gave us this news, basically said, here, come back in a week. And then it was just this week of waiting and stressing for me because I had all of this anxiety about all the what ifs and all of the things that could go wrong still. And, all of those things. And I think it was October of 2012, there had been a talk, and it was called Lord, I Believe. If you've never listened to any of the LDS General Conference talks, I can link this one below. But it is a really, really good talk, and there's a couple sections of it, I guess. If you guys can hear me, give me a heart or something to make sure that I'm actually being heard. But this talk, though, he just talked a little bit about this Bible experience of a man who brings his son to Jesus's apostles and asks them to heal him. And they basically said, no, we can't do it. They didn't have enough faith, or they didn't know, understand their own power of the priesthood enough to act on it and to do anything about it. And so he came to Jesus kind of as a last resort. And what he says is, Jesus says to him, if you can believe, if thou canst believe, all things are possible unto him that believeth. And the father of the child in the Bible, it says, and straightway the father of the child cried out and said with tears, Lord, I believe. But then he followed it with, help thou mine unbelief. I really want to believe, I do believe, but there's a part of me that worries. There's a part of me that doubts. There's a part of me that is in this place of uncertainty and has been for, for however long. And I don't really know how to respond. And so I loved this talk. So that's why I linked it below. Hopefully that helps. But one of the parts that he talks about is he just says, basically, when doubt or difficulty come, don't be afraid to ask for help. Basically just asking for spiritual guidance, asking for spiritual help. I know at the time that we were going through this with Joshua that I asked for lots of blessings and things like that. And it really did help. But like ultimately just leading with our faith and leading with the things that we do believe and the things that we trust instead of the things that we fear. Because if we lead with our fear, we're pretty much just going to keep finding more of it. And so I guess I'm trying to like emphasize something that I really, really believe, which is something I'm constantly working on. Like I'm not perfect at this at all, but just leading with your faith, because we all have questions. We all have doubts. We all have things happening in our lives where we wonder, is this going to be enough? Or is this going to work out? And sometimes, what does he say? He says, when those moments come and issues surface, the resolution of which is not immediately forthcoming, which in the case of like our ultrasound with Joshua, where they couldn't really tell us if something was wrong or if everything was fine, he just recommends like hold fast to what you already do know and stand strong until additional knowledge comes. And I just remember reading this and listening to it like over and over and over this whole like week leading up to this ultrasound where we really were hoping that we were going to find out everything that we needed to know. But ultimately, like we didn't really know. And I guess the conclusion that I came to, like at this point, was really just, sorry guys, pregnancy hormones. The conclusion that I came to in this week that I had of waiting was just that basically, if it turned out that something was wrong and, that Joshua's brain wasn't developing properly, or if his, maybe he had some kind of special needs or something like that, that wouldn't have changed our decision to raise him, to keep him, to have him come to our family. Like we wouldn't have changed that decision at all. And so stressing about it, like, ultimately didn't do anything for me other than just make me feel more and more anxious. And then I felt anxious about feeling anxious, because I always talk about how like your feelings are super important in pregnancy and you have to be like aware of them and just conscientious of everything. So anyway, there was this quote that I heard on this life coaching call that I was in today. It was actually all about emotions and the meaning that we attach to it. Okay, I'll get to Stormfly in a minute. Can you wait? Okay, well, hold on. But basically, this quote that my life coach talked to us about was, nothing in life is worth getting stressed about, because really it's not. Okay, hold on. I'll be right back. Hey, I'll find Stormfly. I think she's in the toy room. Make sure you go potty if you need to go potty. Mom life. Okay, so just one of the things that we talked about today was just that, like, if you are going through something hard, or if you have been through something difficult, like in my case, if you followed our story, you know that we went through a miscarriage in October. Now I'm due with a baby in October. And like, it's just this whole huge, crazy mix of emotions, but basically just this idea that anything that we have that happens in our life, good or bad, if we can change the perspective that we see the past events with, and just basically focus on like, okay, the things that are happening to me in my life right now, these are things that are happening for me instead of that they're happening to me. What that does is it kind of almost detaches our worth from the emotions that we're feeling, and it gives us a space to like understand the emotions that we're feeling instead of just, living out this whole life of anxiety, things like that. Okay, hold on. I'm opening the door. Hey, you found Stormfly? Yeah. Okay. Play nice. What is the bet that Joshua's now going to come and ask for his dragon next? They're obsessed with how to train your dragon, by the way. But okay, so one of the things that we talked about later too was just like attaching. I have notes. I have notes from earlier today. I just wanted to share this because I thought it was awesome. But just attaching different thoughts to why this emotion is happening. So like for me, this is just an easy, simple example. I don't get nervous going live anymore, but I do sing. And so sometimes when I'm singing in church or I sing a solo or something, I get nervous about singing or playing or things like that. And I feel that feeling of like anxiousness and nervousness at being in front of people or speaking in front of people or whatever it is. And basically, I can kind of like flip that emotion on itself by changing the thought that I have about it. So instead of saying I'm feeling anxious, I can then change it to saying I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling excited. And if you think a thought enough times, eventually what happens is your brain starts to believe it. Another thing to do is just make sure that we're getting curious about our emotions. Instead of trying to suppress them. And so like just trying to understand, like, why am I feeling anxious? Why am I feeling depressed? Why am I feeling this? Because if we can understand the emotion or really understand the thought behind the emotion, we can address the thought. The thought is really kind of what's driving the emotion. And then the other thing is just perspective. And so like with Joshua, one of the things that really helped me, like at the time, I think I had a friend who had just gone through a miscarriage herself. And so just having some perspective and just recognizing, hey, I'm pregnant to what we know as far as this, as far as this moment goes, as a healthy baby. Like when Joshua, like when we had this ultrasound, if you're coming in late, we had an ultrasound at his gender scan that basically was inconclusive and they couldn't tell us a few things. And we thought maybe something was wrong and maybe something wasn't wrong. And just having the perspective that like there's so many moms who can't get pregnant at all, who would be praying for any baby, special needs or not, or, whatever was happening or not. And so just recognizing like that there's so many people worse off in the world, so many people who maybe have a really, really hard time in life who would be praying for whatever your bad day looks like. Basically, we control the depth and the meaning of the life that we lead. So all of this, I have all of this, like this thoughts and things going through my brain, and it all kind of leads back to this thought that, or this quote that my coach Brad told us today. And he said, the only reason that we fear death is because we crave life. And I just thought that was like, boom, like, yes, this makes sense. This totally makes sense because that just completely explains all of the reasons for any of the anxiety and the things that I've been feeling this pregnancy. And I've been trying really, really hard to just not suppress feelings, but just to process the feelings that I've been having. So this week, we're leading up to almost 11 weeks, and we should be able to hear the baby on a Doppler and all of these good things, right? But there's a part of me that is detached from it, or that's trying not to feel too detached from it, but still is sometimes, because there's just a part of me that's still afraid to believe I'm pregnant, even though I obviously am. I'm tired, I'm feeling sick, I'm hormonal and crazy. We saw the baby's heartbeat on an ultrasound a few weeks ago. I have all these reasons, all this proof, but there's still a part of me that is fearful or worried about attaching or, just allowing myself to basically just connect with this new baby that is going to be coming to our family, because there's a huge part of me that's afraid of losing them. You know what I mean? And so it's just this, we fear the death of something, the death of someone that we love, the death of a pet, the death of, whatever we fear it because we want the life, we want the memories, we want the connection that we have with that person, with that, whatever it is that you're feeling fearful of. So I have been trying really, really hard to just release feelings of anxiety and just keep trusting and having faith and focusing on the faith and focusing on the reasons I have, just to believe that everything's going to be fine, because I don't have proof that anything is going wrong. I just have worries. And so I just hope that this is helpful to somebody who maybe you're feeling some anxiety or worry about something. Maybe it's not the same kind of thing, but just trusting that whatever faith you can muster is going to be good enough. And that at the same time, there's ways to work through your emotions. There's ways to process what you're going through or what you're thinking about. And it doesn't have to involve food or unhealthy habits or things like that. Those are just 2 cents. So anyway, my pregnancy brain is a little bit tired right now, so I'm gonna get off. But if you guys have questions, or if that link to the talk that I linked below doesn't work, let me know. And then if you guys have not ever checked out the Life Coach School podcast by Brooke Castillo, It's amazing. And she really talks in the first 10 episodes about processing emotion and understanding negative emotion, because really it's normal to have the ups and downs. It's normal to have the ups and downs. What's not normal is to stay in the down all the time because you're afraid of feeling the up. So anyway, hopefully this is helpful. Tag a friend if you feel like they might need this. But I hope that you guys are having an awesome day, and thanks for listening.